Yeah, remind me so much of this Restream and StreamYard, same thing. Same
Yeah.
way you go in,
Hmm.
same way.
Okay. All right. All right. Here we go.
All right.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday night edition of the People's Show with Mark Wallace. And of course, joining me tonight is, as my co host, my good buddy and friend, Martin G. Johnson from Live, Uncut, and Unedited. Some of you all know him as Martin the Crime Chaser, but he does so much more than that. He's been doing that great work for a long time, a many number of years, and he and I guess, became even closer acquainted during the mayoral campaign. And so we are collaborating and working together as we ought to do. And certainly that is going to be the recipe for really the liberation of our people. So we hope that we continue this great work together. So,
Yes,
Mark, welcome to the program, and thanks so much for joining me.
yeah, thank you for inviting me today. I take it a
Yeah.
pleasure to be on your show today.
All right. Well, we're going to talk about some local things, and certainly one of the things that I didn't get a chance to talk about last night on the program was about the analysis that was done by the Illinois Policy Institute. And what I first want to do is I want to play a clip from a year ago, March 22nd, 2023, when Brandon Johnson and Paul Vallis were the two top vote getters in what becomes ostensibly a primary for the mayoral office of the city of Chicago, went on Fox 32 with Mike Flannery on a forum, and made some promises that every candidate does, and of course, one of those promises is a promise that they would do something about the notorious high-tech three-card Monte scam of photo enforcement. And this
So,
time
Brandon
we're
Johnson,
talking
as
about
mayor, would you?
cameras. So let's see.
So, Brandon Johnson, as mayor, would you consider, given the fact that a lot of these citations were written to those who live in minority communities, people of color got a lot of these tickets, would you consider returning that threshold to 10 miles an hour over the speed limit, or even perhaps getting rid of a lot of these speed cameras? As mayor, would you consider that?
Yes. As I indicated earlier, $1.2 billion from property taxes, fines, and fees under the Emanuel administration. The $2.5 billion tax bill that the people of Chicago are responsible for because of the politics of old, in which Paul Vallis has been a contributor to that. Look, I'm prepared and willing to look at this contract. I have to see the details, right? Because I'm not quite sure what the makeup of the contract is. But here's what I'm also considering. If we can't phase and remove this out, I'm prepared to make sure that whatever revenue is generated in a particular zip code, the revenue should stay in that zip code. But what we ultimately have to do is move away from these fines, taxes, and fees and make sure that the ultra rich contribute and pay their fair share in taxes. That's what the people of Chicago have called for.
Will you meet that challenge?
Yes, absolutely. But let me point out that his tax plan isn't taxing the.
So that was on March 22nd, 2023, over a year ago. Now, Brandon Johnson hasn't been in office a full year. It'll be a full year on May 15th. He was inaugurated May 15th at the, what is that? The UIC Pavilion that he was inaugurated in. And of course, he has been, hit with a lot of challenges. I supported Brandon Johnson, and I still support Brandon Johnson. I can only imagine that the office of the mayor of the city of Chicago is a enormous challenge for anybody. So, but I know that some people conflate attacking a policy with attacking a person.
Okay, great.
And I am not attacking the person, I'm attacking the policy, but he is the person who is now in charge of the policy. And he is another person who was a candidate who is now mayor that made campaign promises to do something about that policy. And here we are almost 1 year later, and there has been nothing said about doing anything about the policy. Illinois Policy Institute put out this analysis that we have been working with them and discussing with them, and they are doing a statewide analysis on the red light camera program as well. That will be coming out at some point. But they did this analysis on speed cameras yet again, and speed cameras were instituted by Rahm Emanuel in 2012. Now, Rahm Emanuel got rid of the head tax that was bringing in millions of dollars in revenue. So he got rid of that. He gave the wealthy corporations a break and put the tax burden on the backs largely of working class people and the poor with speed cameras. They came in at the exact same time that he got rid of the corporate head tax. I think that people should know that little nuance, that when they start talking about lowering taxes and getting rid of taxes, no, they increase taxes on the poor and the working class with these types of schemes of red light cameras and expanding that with speed cameras. So Rahm Emanuel was the progenitor of speed cameras, even against the will of the greater majority of the public who did not want them. He went forth and put them in. So the Illinois Policy Institute discovered that in their analysis that last year, the city issued a speed camera ticket every 20 seconds.
Every 20 seconds.
Every 20 seconds. So that means that there were 3 tickets per minute issued in the city of Chicago last year. So the cameras brought in a record number of $102 million. $102 million. So in 2013, Rahm Emanuel put in 169 cameras. He wanted to put in 300 cameras. We pushed back on that, and there was some negotiations, and they settled for 169 cameras. We didn't want any. They wanted to do 300. There was so much pushback. We were able to get support from the communities and others to push back on this, and Rahm Emanuel and the city council they settled on doing 169 cameras. Since that time, the cameras have generated $179 million for the city of Chicago. That's 9,132,409 speed camera tickets alone. So, I've been on this along with other people in my committee with Citizens to Abolish Red Light Cameras. We started this on the red light camera scheme back in 2009, I believe it was, somewhere around there. So we've been on this for quite some time.
Mark.
Yeah.
Question real quick. Now, wasn't it supposed to be for safety reasons why they developed these red light cameras for safety, which
Yes.
have not been proven?
Yes. That's what has been purported by the Department of Transportation and Scott Colby, who was one of the assistant commissioners of the Department of Transportation, got caught in a lie when the Chicago Tribune, along with Texas A&M University, did an analysis where the city was purporting that there was a 47% reduction in crashes, in the most serious crashes, only to find out that there was only 15% reduction in the most serious crashes. But what the city left out was that there was an increase of rear end crashes at those same intersections where they put red light cameras, of rear end crashes by 22%. So they conveniently left that statistic out. So the cameras have been widely studied by Texas A&M, Wayne State University, even Northwestern was commissioned by the city of Chicago to do a study of the cameras. Of course, the city paid them $375,000 to do it. The Chicago Tribune spent $30,000 along with Texas A&M that did a scientific analysis of the red light cameras in the city of Chicago. The city of Chicago has the highest number of red light cameras than any other city in the United States of America. There's only about 150 communities in the country that use red light cameras or speed cameras, and there's more than 19,400 communities. So,
okay, quick question. Now, earlier in the program, you just played where Brandon Johnson said that he would like to, whatever neighborhood or zip code that have cameras, that revenue, go back to that, that community. So has that happened? Right. Has that happened yet?
No, it has not. No, it has not happened. Or if it has, we certainly haven't been apprised to it. That hasn't been announced. So I don't believe that has taken place.
Because before I got on live, I went to look at the chart, and I found like 3 places. I believe one is 127.5. Was that 544 West 127th Street? I'm familiar with that one. Let me pull up the chart real quick, and I can be accurate on that. And I was looking at some of the charts, and I found a few. Okay, the one 1583rd. That brought $2 million last year. The one on Indianapolis Boulevard, where everybody go to the casino in Indiana, that bought $1,500,000. Okay, the one on 445 West 127, $2.33 million. Wow. So those are the 3 that I know very familiar of. Oh, also, let me see another one that's basically the ones that I see on the south side that brought a lot of money.
Right. Wow. Well, the camera at in Washington Park on Morgan Drive. Most people don't know that that's Morgan Drive there, 527.
Okay. I didn't know that.
East Morgan Drive.
Okay.
That camera was, up until this analysis, was the highest generating speed camera in the city. Now, can you imagine people who are taking family members to go to the hospital for doctor's appointments? They have to pay a toll of a $35 ticket to go to and from the hospital, because that's a lot of the people who are getting tickets at that location. And at the locations where the cameras are, there have never been, not before the cameras and not since the cameras, there have never been high traffic crashes at those locations. So the city's reports that they put out are very skewed reports. And they can't even prove the numbers that they actually put out. There's been analysis done by ABC, Channel 2, others on these cameras. What we do know is that we still have a high number of traffic fatalities in the city of Chicago that have nothing to do with speed camera locations, and that are not mostly within the communities where they have speed cameras. Most of the fatalities that we have are not happening locally. They happen along expressways and highways, and in fact, they're on the main roadways where the traffic crashes and fatalities are. But given the cameras that we have now and the kinds of revenue that they're generating, if they were deterrents, right?
Right.
If they were deterrent, then the revenue would be going down. If they were improving traffic safety, the revenue would go down because people would be driving slower or safer, and there would be fewer traffic crashes. So the facts just don't bear it out. This is a policing for profit 3-card Monte scheme that motorists cannot win. If you get a ticket and you go to challenge that ticket at one of the administrative hearing locations, those administrating hearing officers, they're not judges. They are lawyers, but they are not judges. They're hired administrative hearing officers paid by the city $200 an hour to basically find you liable for, so you have really no defense. You have really no chance of winning. And even if you want to contest that, if you want to go to an actual court and have an administrative review, if you're found liable at the administrative hearing, you have to pay a $401.50 filing fee.
Wow. So you can't win.
You cannot win. You cannot win. So most people cannot take off work. So they're betting on this. Less than 5% of people who get tickets challenge them. And less than 5% of those who challenge them actually get them overturned. So it is a scheme, and it is a tax portal for the working class and for the poor. That's basically what this is. Now, Brandon Johnson made a promise that he was going to do something about it. I provided Brandon Johnson with information because what he could have done is on his first day in office, he could have signed an executive order without any need going before the city council because the law was already voted on. He could have moved it back. At the very minimum, he could have moved it back from the 6 miles an hour to back to the 10 mile an hour threshold for a ticket to be a $35 ticket to be issued. And if you go 11 miles plus, then it's $100. So he could have done that on his first day in office. And I tried to get him to do it.
Mark, help me out here now. Is that for the red light or the speed ticket? Is that for both?
No, the threshold for the speed camera is 6 miles an hour. See, the state statute, a police officer who stops you cannot give you a ticket for going 5 miles over the speed limit. The minimum is 6 miles an hour. If you read the statute, it says that they cannot give you a ticket for going 5 miles over the speed limit. You can get a ticket for going 6 miles over the speed limit. And so what the city has done, what Lori Lightfoot did, is says, well, we're going to have a zero tolerance. So we're going to increase our revenue. We're going to lower the threshold down to 6 miles an hour because the 6 to 10 miles had always been in the policy. It's always been there. But we were able to negotiate with Rahm Emanuel to leave the threshold at 10 miles an hour.
Okay.
So he put it at 10 miles an hour. And so somebody in the Department of Finance or the Department of Transportation went to the mayor, and obviously they need to generate revenue, and said, you know what we can do? You can lower the threshold to 6 miles an hour and you don't have to go before the city council. The city council, you don't have to go and get permission from the city council because it's already in the law. So the mayor did this without even at least allowing for the city council members to debate it and vote on it.
Now, let me Let me ask you a question, Mark. Is this scheme really legal? I mean, legal. How could they issue you a ticket and there's no officer there or any? I never understood that from a long time. I never understood the red light and the speed light camera system without a law
Well,
enforcement
in
writing.
some states, they are unconstitutional. They've been deemed unconstitutional. I think St. Louis is one of the most recent states that have deemed the red light cameras to be unconstitutional. So there are other states who have deemed them to be unconstitutional. We have always stood and said that we believe that these cameras are unconstitutional. We even went to the Supreme Court. Patrick Keating argued a case before the Supreme Court, and what the Supreme Court did was politicized it. What they basically did is they didn't have a quorum, so they couldn't actually, they heard the case, they heard the oral arguments, and in fact, our side won the oral arguments. And this was back in, I believe it was 2000. I believe it was in 2011, somewhere around there, that we were at the Supreme Court. And Patrick Keating argued the case, and they voted, but there were only five. Justices, because Justice Freeman dissented, and Ann Burke recused herself because her husband was on the city council. So there are only 5 members, and you have to have a quorum. So we won the oral arguments with a 3-2 vote, but since there was not a quorum, you have to have 4. It went back down to the lower court's ruling, which upheld that the city was in its right to do it. And that argument was that the city really did not have the authority to institute the cameras because the state legislature had given the city permission to look at the policy in 2003. Daley went and installed the cameras in 2003, so that they were actually operating the cameras for 3 years without approval from the state legislature. So, and then when the argument was raised, they went to the state legislature, and the state legislature passed it, approving for the city to have red light cameras at that time. And there were 384 red light cameras in the city of Chicago. Rahm Emanuel is the only mayor that has ever gotten rid of any of the cameras. Now, Rahm Emanuel got rid of 84 of the red light cameras, but he instituted the speed cameras to make up for whatever that was. So by him getting rid of the 84 cameras, that had reduced the revenue by $2 million a month. But then, of course, they came back and they put in the speed cameras.
Have you ever, I want to ask you a question. Have you ever heard of something? I think we talked about it early in the year that they was trying to get a noise ordinance with the cars with the glass packs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I pushed back against that with Pat Dow, and I believe that they quashed that because first of all, what they were talking about doing and the way that they were talking about doing, again, how would you even determine what car who is actually the car that has a noise, or maybe somebody's catalytic converter was stolen,
right? Or
maybe somebody couldn't afford to get their muffler repaired, and you're going to put this $750 ticket on a person because of that. So again, we pushed back against that, and I guess they saw that it was better not to implement that policy. So we give them credit for at least listening and reconsidering that thought. And I said to Pat, who is now the chairman of finance, I said to her that you all are carrying on looking for ways to find and feed the most vulnerable people
Mm-hmm.
in the city of Chicago. When you do this, the most vulnerable people are the one who's going to get hurt by it. See, a $35 ticket or even a $100 ticket is like a mosquito bite to somebody who, you know, has a checking account that has $3,000 or $4,000 always sitting in it for recreational. That somebody who makes $150,000 a year, it's like a little net on their ear. But somebody who has a fixed income of $800 a month, a $35 ticket becomes an $85 ticket because they cannot pay the $35 ticket because they might need that money to buy medication, groceries, they have to pay utilities. $800 a month is not a lot of money. And that's what a lot of people who are on a fixed income has. One of the people in the story who has an income of $800 a month, and she lives in Evanston.
Mm-hmm.
And she was going to pick up a prescription, but she had to pay a $35 toll because some people were in the road, and she was trying to get around those people and ended up getting a $35 ticket for going 6 miles over the speed limit. Now, in park zones, if you go 6 to 10 miles over the speed limit, you get a $35 ticket. But in a school safety zone, you get a $35 ticket if you go 6 to 10 miles over the speed limit, only if children are present. But 99% of the people don't even know that if you get a ticket, first of all, they're not even supposed to be issuing tickets if there's no child. That means a child has to be visible in the video, in the picture, and they have to be discernible. But if there is no child present, then the city is not even supposed to issue the $35 ticket, because if children are not present, then the speed limit is automatically 30 miles an hour.
Now, quick question. Think about that. Now, I noticed I drive past a camera like going down 63rd headed east, right there. I think it's around Calumet or something, right around up in there. It's I think it's a red light camera or speed camera right there by
Yes.
Now, are they activated?
Well, it's actually not by the school. It's actually by it's by that trucking.
Yeah, right. That
yard. Right. Yeah.
So actually, are those cameras activated during school hours only, or what?
Cameras are activated between 6 a.m. and 9 p.m.
Oh, wow.
6 a.m. to 9 p.m. So if you go to most other states and most other, even municipalities outside of the city of Chicago, they have traffic enforcement for school zones between school times.
Right. That's what I'm.
In other words, like if you go to a place like Crestwood, now they put like a police car where they have, high traffic area. And then they also have crossing guards between the hours of 8 o'clock in the morning till like 9:30 or something like that, right? Because that's when children are coming to school. But then they don't have them there until the children come out of school, because the children are in school on campus and they're not outside on the roads. So why are the cameras operating when the children are actually in school and not walking around? Right?
Yeah,
so you would think, if you're going to do it, why don't you have it enforced when the children are in transport or walking to and from school? Because once they're in class till 3 o'clock on average, right? They're in class to 3 o'clock. They get out at 3 o'clock and their parents come to get them, or the kids are walking home. By 5 o'clock, most children are out of school. Maybe a few children stay for tutoring or some other after school programs. By 5:30, they're gone. Why are the cameras still going till 9 o'clock at night?
Now I have another question too, Mark. going down Vincennes by Morgan Park High School. Now I notice they have a speed camera, a red light camera, one of the two, or maybe both.
Both.
High school. That's a high school.
Yes.
Wouldn't you think that high schoolers know how to cross the street, and and even I never understood that light over there.
Well, first of all, there's not even a walkway along the fence where the school is. There's not even a walkway there. Where they have put these cameras are put in areas where there's high traffic volume, not high foot volume, high traffic volume, where they can generate the most revenues, especially in Black communities. Now, the cameras, in terms of distribution on the north side, south side, and west side, the numbers are just about even. The difference is where the cameras are placed.
Okay.
That causes for them to generate the kinds of dollars that they generate. So they put the cameras in these high traffic areas where they can generate lots of money. I guarantee you that if these cameras were not generating lots of money, they would get rid of them. They would get rid of them. Now, if they were really interested in safety, they would be doing what the Federal Highway Administration has recommended. Let's take red light cameras, for instance. The Federal Highway Administration and Northwestern has long said that the city of Chicago's amber light, the yellow light times, are too short. So the average amber light time, or the minimum average yellow light time, can't be under 3 seconds. And many in the city of Chicago are at 3 seconds. The Federal Highway Administration did an analysis that says that if you raise the length of the yellow light time by just 1 second, you can increase safety and reduce crashes by 75%. So that's a real safety measure. We had meetings with mayors or the Department of Transportation. We had meetings with, it was Michelle Harris who facilitated meetings for us. They refuse to do any of those things, even when the experts have said that our yellow light times are too short in the city of Chicago. So Rahm Emanuel got caught because they had lowered the yellow light times less than 3 seconds.
I think I remember that.
Right? But they never did give back all the money. They never did get back all the money. And so what we started doing is asking for people to go in and contest these things. And how that happened was they got rid of Redflex when they found out that Redflex was involved with the pay-to-play scheme. They got rid of Redflex, then they brought in Xerox. Xerox started posting the yellow light time on the tickets. And you saw that the minimum time was at 2.8, 2.9. So one of the administrative hearing officers, we started having people to go in and contest it because it cannot be less than 3 seconds. And so the Sun-Times and the Tribune, they all did stories on it. And the city had raked in some $11 million on those tickets, but they only gave back, I think, $111,000 or $110,000 of the $11 million, which they should have given back all of those, right? So this is purely all about generating revenue. That's what this is about. This is not about safety at all. Not about safety. So
wouldn't you think it'd be hard for our mayor Brandon Johnson to cut the red lights out period to lose $102 million, which it happened in 2023? That'd be a little troublesome, wouldn't it?
Well,
a lot of money.
First of all, he says that we have to move away from this. He said that. His predecessors have said it. Lori Lightfoot campaigned on it as well. said that, the city is addicted to it, which is true. Um, Mayor Johnson campaigned that he would get rid of them, and he used, he used um, he used a talking point that he has to look at the contract. The mayor is the chief executive of the city of Chicago. There is no policy that is prohibited from elimination if the city council votes to eliminate it. There is no policy. Okay. There's no law that says that a policy has to stay in place, because number one, the city of Chicago is a home rule city, which means that it's self-governing and it has the power to set its own ordinances. So just like they put it in place, they have the power to remove it. Okay. So it's really not.
Now Mark, for genuine. the listening audience, could you explain the difference between a policy and law? Well, a policy
actually is the law. Okay. Policy is a law. They're one and the same, basically. But it is a policy that a local municipality or a state legislature that they create, that they want to put into law. So it is a policy that they debate, they discuss, they bring it to the floor, they mark it up, make changes, they bring it to for debate.
All right, like we have a little trouble here. It was going well. Going good, actually. Freezing up. I don't know what happened. I'm here, people.
Okay. Yeah, we're here. Okay, here we are back. Okay. Back. Okay. Yeah. So hopefully, I'm not sure how we have to eliminate that. There's got to be a way for us to eliminate that. That's like the second or third time that has happened. But maybe we'll work on how we can eliminate that problem. I think that's the one thing with the internet, right? We're bound to it. But at any rate, the difference is that a policy is something that is, you can write a policy.
Okay.
I can write a policy that we would like to become law. The policy can't become law until it is passed by either the local municipality, which means in our case, the city council would have to bring it to the floor, and they debate it, and then they vote on it, and then it becomes law, that policy. So we have red light cameras or photo enforcement is now law. It's a policy. It was a policy that the city council members voted on to make it law. So it is a law. So policies become law. So it is always a policy first. And so that's where we are on that. So I am calling for the mayor to maintain his promise, because it seems to me that the mayor may have fallen right in line as his predecessors is, and because there becomes an addiction to this, because it's easy money. It's easy money. It's a tax, but they don't have to call it a tax. And it's very easy money. So it's policing for profit.
Mm-hmm.
And because police could never generate that kind of revenue. Could never generate that kind of revenue, right? First of all, police would not, if you ask the average police officer who may be patrolling the streets, would you stop a person and give a person a ticket for going 6 miles over the speed limit? I don't think you can find one police officer who would say that they would actually do that sort of thing.
Mark, while we're thinking, tell us a little bit about the history of a red light and speed light camera, where it come from, How did it start? Because I know you did all the research on it.
Well, red light cameras were started actually overseas in Europe.
Okay.
Red light cameras were started overseas. Mayor Daley took a trip to a convention, and someone sold him on the idea that you could use these cameras to generate revenue, but you can call them a safety device. So you have mayors that go to conventions, just like conventions, like, you go to, if you're into music or whatever, if you're into antiques, you go to conventions and, people trade, right? And
Right.
they show you these devices or whatever it is. That's what happened. Mayor Daley went to a convention, and this company out of, I believe it was out of England, that that first, England or Australia, one of the two, I can't remember, that first came up with the idea of red light cameras. Red light cameras have been around for a long time in Europe.
Okay.
They just hit the United States in the early 2000s when they found out that, man, we can generate a whole lot of money by putting these devices in place. Now, they are sold as safety measures. That's what they're sold as. They're not sold, well, certainly they're sold to us, but when they go to them, you bet your bottom dollar that they are told by the manufacturers and distributors that you can generate a lot of money with these devices, and they will create safety on your streets. Well, they don't create safety. That's a far-gone conclusion. They don't create safety. Crestwood, which we have a class action lawsuit going right now against, they removed all of their red light cameras. They only had 4, but they removed them all. There was one camera that they had at an intersection, which we're suing them for, that actually didn't have a light there. Didn't have a light there. Right there at CalSag and Cicero.
Right.
That one camera generated more revenue than all of the other cameras combined that they had. So with the class action that we have in place right now, and class actions are very hard to win. They're not easy to win. And but I think we have a pretty strong argument there, but we'll see how that goes. We've won every argument and gotten it certified, but we'll see what the final outcome of that is. But mysteriously, all of their cameras were removed. Now, they say that they removed them because of road improvements that they were doing, right? Yeah. And then they said that, well, after they're done with the road improvements, they will analyze them again to see whether you're going to bring them back. Why would you have to do that if you're saying that you only took them down just to do road improvement? But we know better than that. But they're gone, right? They're gone. And guess what? They've been gone for almost a year now. They have not had an increase of traffic fatalities or traffic crashes. Think about that.
Makes sense.
And look, there are people who don't come to Chicago because we have red light cameras and speed cameras. Think of the millions and millions of dollars that we lose from people who are saying that we don't even come to Chicago. We won't come and go to your restaurants. We're not going to come and go to your stores. We're not going to come and spend money in Chicago, because by the time we get home, we may have, a couple of toll tickets that we get 3 or 4 weeks later. That's going to cost us another $200 and some odd. We come into your city, spend money and to, impact the economy, but only to get back home to realize that we had to pay another $100 for a red light camera ticket or a speed camera ticket just to come in or out of your city. I've heard people and I had a building out in Lamont, and there were some of the people who worked in the village that they say they do not come to the city of Chicago for that one reason. You guys got too many cameras. That's what I've been told. So I wonder how many people, how many millions of dollars that the city loses from people who would be local tourists to come into the city to spend money. But this policy is a bad policy. It's not a policy for safety. It doesn't create safety because, again, if the income is going up and it's supposed to be a deterrent and it's supposed to create safety, then that would mean that the income would be going down.
That makes sense.
Right?
You said it earlier. Yes.
Yeah, that would be going down. So we know that that's just not the case. So, we're calling on Mayor Johnson to keep his word and get rid of this system, and also make the wealthy pay their fair share. If you notice that whenever it comes to contributing to the tax base, it is always the poor and the working class that they go after. Always, without even asking. When they want to do something to say to the wealthy, you got to pony up. You got to pay your fair share.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody comes along, like Pritzker can come along and say, no, that's not going to happen. And they back off. The financial transaction tax has been studied a long time, says it would bring in hundreds of millions of dollars if they just put on a half a cent on certain trade, not even all of the trades,
right,
but certain trades, that it would generate a few $100 million in revenue. Other places are doing it all around the world. And you have people who are saying, oh, well, if you tax them, they're going to move, they're going to leave. Okay, bye. Where are they going? They're not going to leave because infrastructure is important. And doing trade, everything is about timing. And because of the location of where they are, they're able to make trades. And, winning and losing on trades is a matter of microseconds.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't have the same broadband speed going if you move to Sioux City, Iowa, or Lincoln, Nebraska. Can you imagine a 30-year-old trader saying that he's going to go move and live out in Lincoln, Nebraska, or Sioux City, Iowa? What kind of entertainment that they have out there compared to what they have in Chicago? Chicago was just voted as the most walkable city in the world. So, I think that is a threat that is not going anywhere. But even if they do, why should they not contribute? Why does the working class and the poor, why are they always the ones who have to pay the bear of the burden for wealthy people? They have to pay the burden for wealthy people.
Mm-hmm.
Look, the real estate transfer tax failed, but it failed largely because of bad messaging. When Pritzker tried to do the Fair Tax Act, it failed. It failed because of bad messaging. But that is saying that the people who are the wealthiest need to contribute a little more. But every time they are protected and poor people are not. We have to reverse that cycle. Now, every mayor says that we need to do it, but every mayor does not do it. They just continue to find ways to fine and fee and tax the poor and, the working class. So we've got to push back on that. And I think that is the only way that we are going to reverse that cycle. We've got people who are losing their cars because they can't pay these tickets, You come outside and your car is booted. You can't go to work. Somebody has to go to dialysis. I was on Michigan Avenue down the street from a building that I have. There was a woman who had a boot on her car, and she was crying because she had to go to a dialysis appointment. I mean, this is an appointment that treatment that people have to give to save their life.
Yes.
Right. And we have these boots. Now in the city of Chicago, if you have 2 unpaid photo enforcement tickets, a red light camera ticket or a speed camera ticket, you can be eligible for the boot.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It used to be 10. Then they brought it down to 5. Then they brought it down to 2. But before, you couldn't be eligible for the boot unless you had two unpaid or over a year old. They have removed camera and speed camera tickets from that. You just have to have 2 unpaid red light camera or speed camera tickets that have doubled, and you can be eligible for the boot. And if you get a boot, it's $160 to remove the boot, plus the cost of the tickets, plus the administration cost. That is a ton of money for people who are just working hard to take care of themselves and their family.
It's a money grab. Money grab.
It's a complete money grab. It's a complete money grab. And I think that, look, we want people to pick up your phone, call 312-744-3000 and tell the mayor to keep his promise of removing these cameras. He can do it. There is no legislative blockage for the mayor to put this on the floor. If the mayor wants it to go, the mayor has the power to change it. The mayor brought it in, a mayor can take it out. Why can't we do something big for working class people and poor people? Name me one policy in 30 years that any of these mayors have ever done, one policy that they have done a big deal for the poor or working class people. Just one. I can name you a few that they've done for wealthy. They've given $2.4 billion in TIF dollars to Project 78 and Lincoln Yard for infrastructure work from the TIF fund that's not supposed to be used for that. That's not what it was created for. It was created under the Washington administration for underserved, blighted communities.
Mark, now some come to my mind. Maybe this is not a policy, but I remember when Lori Lightfoot was in office, she did, I think, 10 or more unpaid parking tickets. They can suspend your license. She did undo that. I think that helped a lot of people.
Yes. Well, they did relax some of those things. Yes, they did relax some of those things in terms of suspending your license for tickets, because even if they did suspend your license for unpaid ticket, all you have to do, especially if it's the car that you don't do, you can tell them to suspend the plate as opposed to your life. But you should not be suspending people's driver's license because they can't afford to pay these tickets. People have to get back and forth to work. But again, it's an attack on the working class and the poor. They would never do such a thing to rich people, like ask them to pay a little bit more in taxes. Never.
No.
They would never do it. I don't understand why people who can afford to pay more and should be paying more are not. But people who are working to just try to get by, they get taxed with everything. 7 cents bag tax. That's now gone to 10 cents in some places. Now even the suburbs are getting in on the cash cow, charging for bags. Was out in Glenview And so they now have to ask you if you want a bag. And I was wondering, why are they asking me if I want a bag in Glenview? I said, are you asking me that because you have to charge me for this bag? Oh, yeah, we just instituted that policy. It's 10 cents a bag.
Oh, wow.
So many of the suburbs are getting into the 10 and into the cash cow for the bags. So, we just have a few minutes left, Martin, but I want to say, certainly want to differentiate. This is not an attack on the mayor. I don't want people to misconstrue that, we're attacking the mayor.
No,
we're
not
attacking a bad policy.
policy.
It's a bad policy. And what we are doing is we're holding the mayor to his promise that he made on the campaign, that he's going to do something about it. I met with the mayor before he even announced that he was running. He did not commit in that meeting. I'm not going to say anything that's not true. He did not commit to getting rid of the cameras. He did say, we have to take a look at it. That's what he said, that we have to take a look at it. And he did mention because of the revenue, we have to find ways to get new revenue. There are other ways to get new revenue. Create more opportunity to put people to work, expand the tax base. You put more people to work, you have more people paying taxes. They're earning money, they're buying goods and services. You're creating more of a tax revenue. That's how you generate more revenue. But we got to get bold in doing those kinds of things that is beneficial to poor people and to working class people, not taxing and fining them every time you need $10, that we become the piggy bank.
Correct.
Our communities become the piggy bank.
Yeah. Mark, also tell the listening audience that you released a media press release to the media. I thought you was going to read it, but they can go to your page and see it. So
yeah, you can go to the page. I did a media advisory, sending it to all of the media outlet that it's time for the media to ask the mayor, to hold the mayor accountable, because I believe that the mayor may have fallen in line because the Department of Transportation and the Department of Revenue, they get a sniff of that money and then start swallowing the rhetoric coming from the bureaucrats of saying, well, this is why we're doing this, and convincing the mayor that you got to do this and you can't get rid of this. I'm sure that a lot of that is happening. A lot of that is happening by the bureaucrats. But we have to have a louder voice. We have to have a louder voice. We've got to call the mayor's office and tell the mayor's office that he's got to keep his promise to the poor and to the working class. We need to see him do something that's going to at least give a signal to the Black community and to the poor that he sees them and he's concerned about them. He hasn't done that. And it's certainly time for him to make a bold move in doing that. And the city of Chicago is not going to go broke if they don't have red light camera revenue or speed camera revenue. They're not going to go broke.
Well, again, Mark, thank you for inviting me out. I feel privileged.
Hey, look, Mark, man, listen, it's always a privilege to be with someone who is doing the work that you have been doing and collaborating with people. I count it a privilege to do that. But I also think that it's our responsibility. We have to do it, right? We have to we have to cross collaborate and collateralize using the outreach that we have, so that we can inform the public and that we can engage the public, and hopefully that we can rise up enough people so that we can have a real strong voice to make the people in public office respond to the needs of our communities. That's what it's really all about. All right, folks, listen, Brandon, do what you said you're going to do. All right, Martin, listen, man, thanks for coming on with me. You got to come back Got to come back and be with me
Anytime,
again.
Mark, you know, anytime, brother. We talk all the time. You know,
Yes, sir.
anytime. I listen. Very few shows that I will visit, but this one I will visit. You know,
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Martin G. Johnson,
Yeah.
aka the Crime Tester, live, uncut, and unedited.
You already know what it is. It's live.
I love being black.
For real.
All right.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Martin. Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it. You all take care. We'll see you next time.